We'll talk to a psychotherapist about it coming up. President Obama's Iran deal seems to be on the brink of death. Today, President Trump announced his administration believes Iran is violating that deal. He says he'll cancel it outright if Congress doesn't strengthen it.
I am directing my administration to work closely with Congress and our allies to address the deal's many serious flaws so that the Iranian regime can never threaten the world with nuclear weapons. In the event we are not able to reach a solution working with Congress and our allies, then the agreement will be terminated.
Doug Macgregor is a retired colonel. He's now executive vice president at Burke Macgregor Group. He's the author of the book Margin of Victory, 5 Battles That Changed the Face of Modern War. Colonel Macgregor, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
What does this mean and where's it going from here?
Look, this is a very curious case. I haven't figured out how we benefit from decertifying the Iranian agreement and then potentially sliding into a conflict with Iran. Because if we decertify Iran, the Senate will probably pass sanctions. Sanctions will be treated as an act of war by Iran. The Iranians will then say we have no further incentive to cooperate. They will double down on building nuclear warheads. They will probably get assistance this time from the Russians. We will inevitably collide with them militarily somewhere in the Gulf, in the Indian Ocean, or on the ground, where we have very light, vulnerable forces right now in Iraq. And Iraq is effectively an Iranian ally. It's a Shiite Arab state.
Right.
So you put all of this together and you have to ask yourself, what are we doing? How does this make sense? How do we benefit from this? Because we don't want a wider war. And clearly candidate Trump made it very clear that he did not want to widen any wars. He wanted to gradually disengage.
So what would be the point of this then? How did this happen?
I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense strategically. The timing is terrible. Our forces are spread very thinly around the globe. We have very light forces on the ground, entirely dependent upon air power for survival. If they are taken under direct assault by the Iranians, supported by the Russians, they're in a lot of trouble, and we would have a great deal of difficulty getting them out of there alive. We could easily be embarrassed, is the bottom line. It would take us a very long time to assemble any troops to go in there. And the notion that somehow or another with bombing or missiles we are going to subjugate Iran or bring it around is simple nonsense, because they will be backed by Russia. So those strategies have no chance of success. I wish, frankly speaking, that we would back away and rethink this whole thing, because I think the timing is terrible. This is not the time to do anything like this. And frankly, the Iranians are not going to renegotiate this thing. It took a long time to get it. Plus, our allies, our friends, everyone else in the world does not see Iran in the same light as we do in Washington, or as Israel does. They see the Sunni Arabs and the Sunni Turks, the Islamists in Ankara, the Islamists in Saudi Arabia and in the Middle East, as far, far more dangerous and hostile to Christians and Jews in the West than Iran.
Yeah, well, look at the body count. It proves that point.
Yes.
Colonel, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Harvey Weinstein wants to assure you that he is the victim here. Not evil, he's sick. And that should make you feel bad for him. He's now at a luxury rehab facility. Is it legitimate or a standard Hollywood ploy to divert attention? We'll talk to a psychotherapist about all of that coming up. Divert attention. We'll talk to a psychotherapist about all of that coming up. Shortly after his misdeeds were exposed, Harvey Weinstein played the favorite card of every cornered celebrity. He's not depraved, he's sick. He's the real victim here. Well, some Americans actually struggle with real diseases, diabetes, arthritis, cancer. Weinstein struggled with an ailment that had made him sexually harass or assault almost every woman in sight. And like countless other famous people, Weinstein says he's getting that illness treated, the help he needs. He's reportedly entered a $2,000 per night rehab clinic in Arizona to treat what he says is sex addiction. Will he emerge a new man? Would you let him babysit after? Nell Gibbon-Daly is a psychotherapist. She joins us tonight. Nell, thanks a lot for coming on.
Hi. Thank you, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
So if you could just clarify the difference between a sex addict and a sexual predator, and why is Harvey Weinstein an addict, not a predator?
Well, a sexual addict would be someone who uses sex a lot to get comfort, right? They have an addiction to, let's say, pornography or looking at certain images. Someone who's a sexual perpetrator actually acts upon their sexual fantasies and breaks the law.
Well, that seems like a great distinction. I mean, I agree with you. So why is he in rehab, since he's clearly in the latter category?
Well, that was the choice that he made, right? He said that what he was going to do to repent for the things that he has done is to go to rehab. The question is whether or not he will turn himself in. Some people in my community, some feminists are coming out and saying, why wouldn't he actually, like thieves who steal cars and turn themselves in, if you admit to having committed these crimes, should you face jail time in the legal system?
So you said in order to repent, so it's kind of like buying an indulgence from the medieval church, like all is forgiven once you pay $2,000 a night to go to Santa Monica to talk about your problems in group therapy. I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like.
You know, what are his options at this point? You know, if he said that he wasn't going to go into therapy, how would he look in terms of the media? The problem is, and the really interesting question here is that with men, social shame doesn't stop them from committing this crime, right? We look at people like Bill Cosby, Bill Clinton, we look at, O'Reilly, and now we have Harvey Weinstein. That's the fascinating question to me all of the time. Like, how is it that they're able to commit these crimes without thinking that there's going to be some like moral and huge social implications, considering the fact that they're men with so much power and they have so much visible exposure? Right.
Well, these are powerful drives. I mean, that's a fair point. I guess what bothers me about it, there are two things that bother me. One, it's so transparently phony. It's not a disease. The guy acted like a jerk, and maybe criminally in some ways, and it degrades the idea of mental health treatment. I think it's not a serious use of a mental health facility. It's using it as a public relations shield. Does that bother you?
I mean, whether he's using it as a public relations shield, yes. But I would have to disagree with you. In my community, there has been some success with people who are sexual predators. I'm going to call him a sexual predator. In terms of rehabilitating them, it's much easier to treat somebody who has committed this crime once, though, than someone who has done this over years and years of time.
Right.
So what we have to do is, because we can't lock these people up for life. In fact, in a lot of cases, we can't lock them up at all. Look at the case of Bill Cosby. What do we do when they reemerge back into the community? And the thing that we have to worry about is protecting other people in the community. I'm not saying I necessarily know whether Harvey Weinstein is going to commit this crime again, but he's certainly at risk for doing so.
So I guess the other thing that bothers me is the self-involvement of it all. All of his statements refer primarily to himself. And going to a place where you pay $2,000 to talk more about yourself seems like pouring kerosene on a campfire. Maybe he should be paying to go to a facility where he talks about other people's problems. I mean, do you see why self-involvement drives this kind of behavior? It's all about me and my needs and what I care about. And he convinced himself women wanted to watch him take a shower. I mean, this is a very self-involved guy.
Right, but therapy is what the therapy would do and what therapists would do in this kind of facility, whether that's, again, inside the prison system or outside the prison system, is that they would work on his grandiose ideas of himself. They would work on the very core things that he feels about women. They would challenge that. They would ask him to be more empathetic towards women. There's many things that in therapy they would do to try to deconstruct why he did what he did.
No, I get it, and I know that that's very common, but as you just conceded, it doesn't work very often, and maybe the whole premise is wrong. Maybe you should stop talking about yourself so much. A lot of people talk about themselves endlessly. Maybe they should stop. Do you think that would help?
What's his other option?
Talk about other people.
Well, I think
listen to other people for once.
Look, well, maybe what is going to happen after he comes out of this entire situation is that he's going to hopefully give back to the community, open his checkbook, and support a lot of causes that would benefit women.
Nell, thanks for joining us
tonight. Thank you for having me on, Tucker. I appreciate it.
Up next, exhaustive archival research has produced new scholarship about the modern world's preeminent philosopher. That would be Chris Cuomo. We've got it for you coming up. We want to dig a little deeper tonight into our vast Chris archive to bring you tape from this summer. For a brief moment, CNN's poet laureate and morning show host tried his hand at movie criticism. Watch this.
Wonder Woman, amazing. You finally had a female director break the $100 million mark. The film means more than just its box score. What does it mean to you? Here's a little intrigue. I wanted to be like Wonder Woman, and I'm going to wear a shirt that says it.
Now, to the conventional Western mind, trained in the Aristotelian tradition of rigorous textual analysis, a number of questions arise from what you just saw. What does it qualify as intrigue that Chris Cuomo once wanted to be Wonder Woman? Did he ever wear that shirt? What's with the air kisses? So many more questions. And yet it would be a mistake to approach a Chris Cuomo video in this way, bound by the fetters of logic and English grammar. Better to understand Chris Cuomo for who he is: an artist, a poet, a seeker, a shaman. Not what the hell is Chris Cuomo talking about? The question is, what is Chris Cuomo trying to teach us, all of us, humanity itself? We can't answer that question. We're not Chris Cuomo. And so in the coming days, we'll bring you more of Chris Cuomo, much more, until we reach enlightenment or run out of videos, whichever comes first. Got that to look forward to. That's it for us tonight. Tune in every night at 8 to the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. Have the best weekend. Good night from Washington. Sean Hannity from New York. Next.